Hello, spider friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Reaper's Creek by Onision. Dramatic reading. We started this book, and we're on chapter 2. So I hope you're sitting comfortably. Let us begin. The cold glass smack. The cold glass smack. What does that even mean, Greg? My mum was a little late getting home. Traffic. She threw her keys on the table and hugged her husband, my stepdad, Donny. "How are my kids?" my mum asked. Papa replied, "These little rascals, they're alive." My mum glared at Papa, clearly not satisfied with the bare minimum requirement that we not die on his watch. My mum told us to fend for ourselves for dinner, with her matted down, dyed red hair and basic makeup smeared after a long day's hard work. She was off to take a shower and spend the rest of the day watching VHS movies on her 13-inch TV in her bedroom, laying on her custom log bed Papa had made for her. Joanna walked into the front room and yelled through the door to my mum, asking, "Hey Mum, can I go to Uncle Matt's house for the bonfire?" My mum screamed back, "I don't care." So Joanna immediately smiled and ran off to get her jacket. "I want to go," I screamed after Joanna. Joanna replied, "I don't care, just stay away from me." I smiled and ran to get my own coat as well. Our neighbourhood was a quiet place. We lived in the middle of nowhere. Our neighbours' houses were a good 1,000 feet from one another at the very least, leaving us to easily mind our own business. A creek ran through our small village. Mostly family members were in the area, which is why my mum clearly had no problem with us running over to a bonfire after the sun had already gone down. To get to my uncle's, we had to cross a bridge that was falling apart. It had boards with giant nails punched through them. The boards weren't quite parallel or consistent in width or length. The bridge had handrails and support system were made up of metal cables. Tiny wires wrapped around one another, slowly rusting over time. To say the bridge was not appropriate for children as young as myself would be an understatement. Children as young as that do not care about health and safety. They just don't. After crossing the slippery bridge in the dark, we could see the bonfire, people laughing and clearly already most intoxicated. My mum trusted my family, but considering how much alcohol ran through our bloodline, I'm not sure why she would at this hour. The night was mostly uneventful. Till, he means until, one of my uncles offered me some whiskey. He's 11. I was mostly opposed to drinking alcohol and drugs, regardless of who used them. However, I was even more worried about drinking off the same bottle as my uncle. Strangely enough, I am more anti-germs than anti-drunks, and I am really anti-drugs. "Come on, Daniel, take a sip," my uncle screamed. He was the oldest of all the kids in my mum's immediate family and lived across the creek from my Uncle Matt. Hang on, there's more than one uncle. Why doesn't he have a name? My family members around the fire got quiet as I replied to him, "No." However, my uncle did not like this answer and said, "What are you, some kind of wussy? Take some whiskey." I again said, "No, I don't want any." My aunt just to my right looked at me and said, Come on, Daniel, it's just whiskey. I sat there, silently angry, and otherwise good night was turned into an awkward situation where my own blood was trying to infect me with a lifelong addiction. I saw what it did to them, and I didn't want it to be me. My uncle hollered, sitting opposite me around the bonfire. Here! As he threw the bottle to me, I didn't even try to catch the bottle, and it smacked against my knee. Immediately, I jumped up and yelled. I said, "No! Why did you have to ruin my night?" He's a dramatic 11-year-old. And before he could respond, I stormed off towards the bridge to go home. My sister Joanna was in my Uncle Matt's house, so she didn't see what happened. She didn't hear what they screamed after me as I walked away, and I was so upset. I didn't process what they said either. Full of rage, my whole walk home seemed instantaneous, despite the walk being a quarter-mile in distance. The timely shower I took daily was spent in silence that night. I just stood there brewing, staring at my knee that had been smacked by the whiskey bottle. This would only further my frustration with people who drank alcohol. I would have understood if at least I was drinking age, but they didn't care, and my mum trusted them. Why? My head slammed against my pillow, right next to the blaring furnace that heated my entire tiny house. The burning gas-filled sound was a welcome relief from the disappointment I felt for my family that night. If I knew I was an adult and saw another adult trying to get a kid drunk, I'd throw them into the creek head first. But no one did anything. No one defended me. My eyes closed. How could this night get any worse? I thought to myself, not realizing that the night was not over yet. My dreams owned my sleep and my soul. They were about to take me to a place I had never been before. Something was very different. I felt a chill to my bones. I woke up in darkness. No longer in my bed, I was in the middle of a massive nothing. No signs of walls, no sign of a room of any kind, just silence. I could hear a crackling noise, but it wasn't with my ears. It was like a noise you remember, only this time it was playing in my head. I was interrupted by another non-audible noise. It was a voice, but speaking a language I had never heard before. I looked up and saw a warped face. It was at this point I knew I was not in my world anymore. I was in a dream, despite the warped face now being closer to my eyes than before. It remained hard to make out, like my eyes were sleepy, causing an intense blur. Only I could see their body clearly, their long, skinny legs, their stick-like arms. I could even somehow see their spine protruding outwards and hunched forward, despite me having no clear sight of their back. In dreams, I can hear things most can't hear. I can see things most can't see. I have no explanation, cognitive abilities in a sleeping state. The alien figure spoke, what I can remember as a sharp, aggressive whisper. I was paralysed, unable to escape, a perfect victim for whatever the creature wanted to do to me. This is what a fly would feel like trapped in a spider's web. Only I couldn't struggle. I was paralysed, physically and mentally. The alien graced the back of my neck with his twig-like fingers. He brushed both hands down the side of my face and shortly after lined one finger up with the front of my throat. This is a bit weirdly sexual for an 11-year-old. I'm just saying. I began to feel a piercing sensation, but was accompanied by the sensation that I was being choked as the alien pushed their finger into my neck. I could see another perspective within the dream. They had submerged half of their finger under my flesh. As if my soul was outside my body, I could see myself being impaled by this cold, grey creature. My eyes turned black as I began to choke up a mud and ash like paste out of my mouth. He means from his mouth. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. We are happy, so happy. Good morning to you. My mum sang in the most irritating way to get me up every other morning. I looked over my bed rail and there she was, with my lunch packed, my backpack in her hand, clearly indicating that I was going to be late for the bus. time to go to school. This is worse than the other books. By far, it is worse than the other books. It's just nonsensical rubbish. Trying to say things without swears, because, you know, this is it's a channel. I'm so confused about this house that Daniel. Did you know that that Daniel's actually Greg's original surname? It's so confusing. Like, his mother sleeps on a log bed, his stepfather made, and his bed hangs by chains next to a furnace. Like, what? Do they not have bedrooms? Like, I just don't understand. Okay, but I'm trying to overanalyze something that was written by Greg, so what can I tell you? I want to thank you very much for tuning into this video. Please remember to leave me an internet thumbs up, like and subscribe. Hopefully I'll see you again next time.